Thank you so much, sir, for sharing wonderful insights. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out a little bit about the overview of the tooling industry. For this, may I please invite on stage Ashim Sharma, partner, Nomura Research Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming him up on the dais right here. Let's have some energy. Let's do this.
All right, very good afternoon to all of you. I think the clock's just turned towards the afternoon, and it's my proud privilege to talk about tool rooms and the role in shrinking the product development time. I also see there's a bit of a shrinkage in the time allotted to me, but I'll try to make up for that. So I'm going to talk about, first and foremost, what the Chinese are doing and how they are being able to rule multiple markets over the last couple of years, and what role has tooling played there. Therefore, what can the Indian industry do in response to that, and also some digital imperatives for the tooling sector. So starting with, the role of the automotive industry in China's tooling industry dominance, what we see here is that the Chinese have been fast expanding. On the top of the slide, you see what they've been doing in the ASEAN region, where they've grown at about a whooping 113 times in the last couple of years. And at the bottom side, you see what they've been doing in Europe. In both these markets, especially in the EV powertrain, there's been a huge surge in the way the Chinese OEMs have been coming to dominate these markets, and also in the ICE powertrain side. Their core capabilities are hinging on two things. One is the capabilities in development and design as well as production, where what they've done is shrunk the product level development time tremendously to about 18 months. They've also leveraged a lot of AI simulations and softwares over there. What we also see is that they've been able to have a lot of production capacity, which gives them the benefits of scale. They've invested a lot in upskilling people, and very importantly, they've also done a lot of in-house integration with, say, some models being as much as 70% completely in-house developed. At the same time, we also see that they've developed a lot of dominance in terms of what they've done in terms of raw materials, whether it's rare earths or it is, the battery materials, whether it's through mines within China or through what they've been able to do through securing mines across the globe. So in summary, they've worked on a bunch of factors over here. First and foremost is focus on R&D, design development, developing a robust product development system, using advanced digital simulation and the softwares, and also adapting the best practices from across the globe. And as far as raw materials are concerned, of course, they've done a lot of domestic exploration, developed the capabilities to process these materials, as well as, being able to have strategic acquisitions across the globe. Alongside this, we also see the tooling industry there has been playing a very key role. Their tooling industry makes up about 31% of the world's tooling industry. This has grown in recent times on the back of a lot of things, a large market, a lot of support from the government. Also we're seeing availability of labor and skills, as well as very fast development times, all contributing towards this. So when we look at the Indian tooling industry and what are some of the challenges, well, if we look at the product development cycle, we see that our OEMs take between 3 to 5 years. Even facelifts take about 1 to 1.5 years, whereas the Chinese are doing it in 1.5 years, as I just spoke about. Here, it's also interesting to see that in terms of new car launches, again, we've done somewhat 20-something launches, whereas the Chinese have done up to 79, which even in fact is about double of what even the Europeans have done in the recent past. So it clearly shows that the way they've been able to shrink product development times and also being able to bring a novelty to their portfolios is adding a lot of weight to how the Chinese are approaching the markets. Uh, Added to this is the industry structure that we have here, about 14 to 20 large OEMs, about 900 plus suppliers, 600 plus tool rooms, all of which need to work very closely with the tooling sector in order to be able to leverage the skills that are there and to be able to adapt to the country's low volume, high mix car trend. And therefore, the tooling industry is essential in being able to provide continuous refreshes and also being able to provide precise parts that can be used by the industry. When we also look at the tooling value chain, and I've shown this slide earlier as well as ITS, we see that there's a huge difference in the number of days we take and what the global tool makers take, because we take about 125 to 142 days, whereas globally it's about 81 to 96 days. Again, focusing on a lot of areas that are responsible for this, right from the kind of machines that are being used to the use of software, which is limited, which increases the number of iterations from T0 onwards, and also importing a lot of tool steel, which there are some steps being taken, but it's still a work in progress in order to be able to localize large parts of tool steel in the country. All this creates a vicious cycle. It does not let the tool makers focus on the higher value-added components, which creates an issue around the available working capital, which limits the amount of money that can be spent on upskilling and reskilling the workforce, or in investing in modern machines, etc., which again then limits the kind of orders that come in. So it creates kind of a vicious cycle that the tool makers have to contend with. Of course, there are certain controllable elements for this, which are operational, financial, and human resource oriented, and some uncontrollable ones, which are what's happening geopolitically, some of the government policies, and also what is happening in the overall industrial ecosystem in the country. So what are some of the solutions for this, especially for the controllable factors? We see that a variety of solutions hold stead there, whether it is in terms of what we do in terms of improving our operations through project management, or what we do in terms of, the skilling up of people, or what we do in terms of financial initiatives that we take out there. Again, we see that a lot of additional capabilities, whether, of course, CNC already very well known, but in addition to that, we also see, looking at the BOM very clearly and critically in terms of what we make in-house, what we outsource is going to be critical. It's also going to be critical to look at certain other elements, for example, from a project management standpoint, as well as from a machine connection and monitoring standpoint, which comes in the domain of IoT. Looking more specifically into project management, I think it's very important for us to look at how the whole tool development cycle is being treated at the tool makers' end, whether this is in terms of estimation of the resource requirements that are there, or it is in terms of the KPIs, which should be both while globally benchmarked, but also very locally relevant for the kind of tool makers that we are talking about, and also in terms of having a dedicated governance structure. That also dovetails into process improvements, where we talk about having distinct SOPs to promote consistency, reduce efforts, and also governance in terms of gathering feedback and leveraging tools like Kaizen, Kanban, or value stream mapping, etc. In addition, there should be a tilt towards looking at higher value-added projects, which is, say, the A-class, B-class panels, or also, side by side looking at whenever we have spare capacity, those could also be used. The engineering capacity could also be looked as an ESO service, which could be provided. And with the rise of GCCs in India, that would be a big area of interest for others as well. And finally, also looking at new sectors. As we can see, about 60% is focused towards the automotive sector, as we heard in the last session, is the driver for the tooling industry in India. But also we must look at sectors such as defense, wherein a lot of investment is going to come in from the government in order to promote self-reliance. It's also important, side by side, to look at upskilling of the workforce, making them adept to be able to handle the challenges that are coming in with, say, a multi-powertrain environment. Also, very importantly, skilling them up to work very well in the AI era. AI, which, so we've heard of a lot of technological shifts over the years, some of which have not been as profound. For example, 3D printing, IoT. But when we talk of AI, this certainly is having, a rigor and a momentum which hitherto has not been seen in some of the other technological disruptions that are coming. And it's very important to skill up our workforce to be able to embrace AI, leverage AI, and use it to be more productive in the AI era. Side by side, also looking at certain other technological innovations, whether it's collaboration increase with suppliers, co-creation, and also looking at hiring some of the veterans in the tooling industry who could lend their experience and help improve some of the processes that are going on. All this will in turn create a virtuous cycle. So cost optimization frees up working capital, enables then that capital to be used either for advancing the kind of equipment we are using or training the workforce, which helps to gain new orders, which again leads to a further flow of capital. So a virtuous cycle therefore takes effect. Finally, digital, which is a big piece, and also dovetailing with AI. I think there are a lot of technologies, as I was just mentioning, being talked about. 3D printing or additive manufacturing is one of them, and it is seeing a big role, especially in the Chinese automotive industry, wherein they are trying to use it extensively to reduce the product development times. We're also seeing a lot of automation and robotics coming in, where for small-scale setups, probably a lean-led automation approach, which also comes in the realm of automation, would be very important. Using things like laser machining, which improves the kind of precision that we can achieve, sustainability in tooling, and finally, and very importantly, digital in manufacturing is going to be key. If we don't embrace digital, it's going to create a lot of issues. For example, poor utilization of equipment, challenges in terms of quality, more and more of scrap coming in, and therefore reduced profitability. Now, in order to get out of this vicious cycle, which many of the tool rooms are also trapped into, it is important to leverage digital, which is reusing existing data, which is there, that is the engineering data. As I said, also using AI ML models, training these models so as to be able to leverage the years of expertise that has been gathered by the tool rooms and thereby crunch the product development times, breaking down silos in terms of having to, easing the communication, whether it's within the different departments in a tool room or between customers and tool rooms, wherein we find that, some of the advantages of co-location of tool rooms in India with the OEMs and suppliers have not been leveraged as much. And also in order to optimize resources through reducing waste, improving traceability, and enabling better resource management, all of which, when combined with an overarching layer of AI, which we see entering into the software tools today. For example, if you want to machine a part, you want to create a chamfer, you want to create a hole, instead of doing it manually through large language models or LLMs, the designer will be able to give written prompts, and the software on its own will be able to then, design that part in that form. So it becomes akin to, say, two designers talking to each other. So similarly, you put in the right prompts to the system and it will be able to machine the part. Now the workforce must be trained on this and also must be reskilled so that, when some of these tasks become more and more automated, their skills can be put to use in other areas. And that's where, leveraging digital, and which will also create a glide path to be able to leverage AI, becomes very important. And therefore, tool makers can then unlock a lot of potential and a lot of value and become globally competitive. And in this era where the Chinese are making inroads into many, many markets, it'll be very important for the tool makers to be that strong foundation for the Indian automotive industry to stand up to this challenge, reduce the product development times, create a more novelty factor in the product portfolios, and therefore be able to ride out through this perfect storm and by creating all these challenges into opportunities. With that, I reach the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing all those wonderful insights with us. May I please request Mr. Akshay Kalyanpur, EC member, Director, Sri Devi Tool Engineers Private Limited, to please join us on stage and hand over a token of appreciation. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank Mr. Sharma for that insightful session. And please join me in extending a token of appreciation to him. Thank you, gentlemen.